Hi there, and welcome back to The Foundation Presents. My name is Mike Schramm, your host and a board member on the Foundation for West Hartford Public Schools, a private nonprofit that's dedicated to building and expanding upon the curriculum in the West Hartford Public Schools. Today, I'm welcoming one guest to talk about his work with Chapter 126, and it should be an exciting conversation. And now I'd like to welcome on Eric Feeney, third grade teacher at Wolcott Elementary School. Eric, can you talk to me a little bit about your grant?
So I wrote a grant for a field trip to Chapter 126. Chapter 126 is in Bristol, Connecticut. It's owned by Oak Hill. It's the largest recreational area for people with disabilities. They play wheelchair basketball. They have equipment that is accessible to everyone. They have if you're in a wheelchair, you can roll in and you do the press machine. They have a machine that runs like you're in water. It's for everyone. So it's fully inclusive, and it's a wonderful field trip, so a wonderful place. So I think we did this for third graders in the beginning of the year to get some empathy, because social emotional learning is in the curriculum, and our school, Wolcott School, has many students with disabilities because we have 2 resource rooms. So it's good to have students get some sensitivity training and some disability awareness. So the students go, they put themselves in the shoes of someone with a disability. They wear a blindfold, they play blind baseball. Blind baseball is a ball that just constantly rings, and so you have to use your other senses. And it's pitched, it's hit, and the kids they end up on their hands and knees trying to get it. They play wheelchair basketball. They ended up doing activities with one arm. They tuck an arm in. And then there's goal ball. It's a creative game that the ball jingles, and there's a line on the floor that it's like a chain that you feel the goal. And using your sense of hearing, you dive for the ball or try to stop it, and you kind of just throw the ball back and forth. Goal ball. Wonderful learning experience. The third graders that have been there still are talking about it. They love playing wheelchair basketball. It just makes them, I feel, like a better person. And if you learn about disability awareness earlier in life, research says that you'll go on to be more open and accepting later as you grow up.
So is this the whole third grade class or just your classes?
Yeah, the entire grade level. Third grade goes, currently, this year was 4 classrooms. So the teachers, the teachers are excited. We get to come to school looking like a PE teacher. We're ready to do some physical fitness. And then we go into groups, and then the 4 groups, we don't stay in our class. So we kind of just separate all the 4 classes so they get to learn, meet and play with other students not in their class. It's such a learning experience. It's led by Coach Paul. Coach Paul is a teacher. Coach Paul is in a wheelchair.
And Coach Paul is with Chapter 126.
Yes, and he played professional wheelchair basketball. So the kids, he'll dribble around them and shake and bake, and the kids oohing and ahhing. So he's very talented. He just has great speaking abilities. He motivates them. He gets their attention. They're interested. They're engaged. It's just it's a great day.
The social emotional learning is something that we've talked about more and more on this program, and it seems like it's really getting into all aspects of the curriculum in the school system. And what you're saying about students wearing blindfolds and playing sports or tucking an arm in, and they're really sort of putting themselves in the shoes of people who have these disabilities and learn how to live with them full time and have it not impact their lives as much as possible. And I think it's really wonderful that these students are getting that exposure at such a young age. And what's their experience like after the fact? Do they talk about it? Is it something that has a lasting impression?
Oh yeah, so then the Wolcott is wonderful too. They run something called Wolcott Pals. So they partner students that have individual needs with someone, and they read together, they play games, they share a snack, they do read-alouds together, and the kids are so welcoming, so friendly. They don't judge based on the abilities. They don't let the disability define the person. They are a friend, they are a classmate, and I think this Chapter 126 trip had a lot to do with that. I saw it this year firsthand. I had students, come on, welcoming and trying to be friendly to get them and participate in a group activity, whether it be a brain break or some sort of hands-on activity. Come on, come on. And just sometimes that student may have, a little episode of, upset. And no kids we're not staring or pointing. They just totally are very accepted to the behaviors. Sometimes they'll try to help out. It's just, wonderful opportunities and experience.
I think back to my own experience, especially being in elementary school when you're maybe not so aware of what life is like outside of your own body. And I don't think that there was much in the way of trying to incorporate kids who had just different abilities than myself and what many other students had. And it really seems like it's a much more inclusive way of approaching not only physical education, but teaching in general, right? You're trying to involve people who might not necessarily feel comfortable in a physical education environment because traditionally they're sort of held back by whatever their ability levels are. And this seems like a really good way, not only of getting more able-bodied students to think, to be more empathetic and put themselves in the shoes of other students, but to have those students feel more comfortable and be able to connect a bit more with their peers. Do you see anything like that?
Yeah, definitely. We saw, what was I going to say? What was that again?
So you've got your students there who are more, more able-bodied, and it seems like they're really empathetic, right? They're putting themselves in the shoes of other students by tucking the arm in or what have you. How do your students who have different abilities feel about going?
Yeah, so they participate just like anything else. Actually, Chapter 126 is named after the federal grant that has been put into place that makes everything accessible. Ballparks, schools, government buildings. So, and agreed with you that when I was in school, they had separation, and there was not learning taking place. Even just sometimes that friendship, that peer engagement is where the learning takes place. And this part of it, again, back to the empathy, back to the sensitivity training, just makes the world a better place. Accepting everyone, accepting everyone based on, we're not race, gender, abilities, disabilities. Everyone is welcomed. Everyone participates. So that's the most important thing that the students come away from with this trip.
That's really wonderful. I'm so happy that the foundation can be a part of that. And you said you've gone for a few years now, and so the foundation is sort of offsetting the costs of the trip. Is that right?
Oh, it's fantastic that they're able to do that. I really think the foundation, it allows students. Wolcott has, a wide range, abilities, economic. So now everyone without payment can go. It covers the bus. It covers admission to Chapter 126. Students can now just sign up and go. And we do it early in the year, so they get to like a team building. It's just, can't thank the foundation enough. This was my first grant. When you reached out to me and to share, I just wanted to share. Very passionate for students. I've been teaching for 15 years. I'm always welcoming, fully including all students based on needs, and so it's great.
I really appreciate that attitude, and I think that there's been a sea change in how educators go about working with their students, and I remember I sort of came of age in the era of high stakes testing, and that in many ways really did separate people out based off of certainly learning disabilities. Those students were very segregated in the classroom when talking about how to get ready for the various tests that we were taking. Certainly backgrounds that students are in their home life, whether you have one parent or two parents at home, are your parents at home and able to help you study for a test versus out working another job? And I think that I've been so touched by what I've seen in the West Hartford schools as there's been this concerted effort to really try to include all of our students, because West Hartford is a town that has a really special education system, and I certainly have benefited from that in 13 years of my life, and met lots of wonderful people from many different backgrounds. And I think that when you look at some school districts in Connecticut that don't do as well, they don't have the resources to be able to make sure that everyone is in the classroom together. And we're talking so much about empathy and that sort of social emotional learning. I'm so happy that that's become a more concerted part of the curriculum, that it's more active, that teachers are really keeping an eye out for that, because I think that is crucial in how people learn to interact with one another. And now we live in a world where people are interacting so much more frequently than they ever were before, and it's sort of like you look on the internet and the gloves have all come off, and there's no empathy and there's no ability for people to put themselves in the shoes of another person. And this situation where students are quite literally putting themselves in the shoes of another person, that really touches my heart and makes me feel like the foundation is certainly doing a good thing here and supporting your work, which is really, really wonderful. And I'm happy that you've found this connection here, and that you've been able to go back to 126 a couple of years in a row now. So what are your hopes for the future? Do you think that this program is going to continue?
Oh, yes, I would love to see it be a third grade, like rite of passage. The fifth grade, they go to Colebrook or they go to Farmington Club or Boston trip. I want this to be like the third grade trip. They learn so much. It's great. And back to what you said about West Hartford, students, I've talked to parents of students. I moved here because I found I was having twins, or my wife was having twins. We want to be in West Hartford. I hear so many parents that have students with disabilities find places they want to come to West Hartford. West Hartford is the place to be for all students. Clear paths, bright futures, that's the goal. Everyone is welcomed here. Everyone succeeds. Everyone flourishes. It's great. So and then my student, I have a student with special needs. She won the spelling bee. So that was an eye opener. She was the 3-time champ, 3 years in a row. So it's wonderful to see that. We read literature. We have read Out of My Mind. The main character, Melody, is in a wheelchair. A learning lesson at the end, she wins the trivia contest. Fish in a Tree, Allie, the main character, has a learning disability, dyslexia, hated school. By the end, she's class president. So we read all these either before or after the trip, make that connection, the literature piece with the real world experience piece to continue the learning. It's just, wonderful.
I love that, and I think that the students are way more capable than a lot of people would give credit to for making those connections, and they're reading these books, and then they're doing these activities, and it's all compounding, how they should be more empathetic, and they should put themselves in the shoes of other people who may be experiencing life differently than they do. Because at the end of the day, we're all experiencing life differently. We're all, in our own heads, and we're seeing the world through our own eyes, and I think it's, as much as possible, it's important to reinforce for these young people that the world is not just as you see it through your own eyes. The world is so big, and so many people experience it with their individual experiences based on their physical and mental abilities and interests and inclinations. And again, I really think this is wonderful. So if there was one thing that you could say to the foundation's donors, what would it be?
Yeah, we would love, 126 is so welcoming. If you would love to come and join us on the trip to see the actual kids learning and participating, they're very welcoming. You can go and drop in. If you have friends or family members that would like to work out, train, play basketball, Chapter 126 is the place. I can't thank them enough for sponsoring the grant. I think I felt great to write a grant and actually get accepted. It felt great, and the kids, again, love it. Kids don't remember, I love how my third grade teacher taught me multiplication strategies. They remember this trip. Fifth grade, they were sharing 5th grade memories. 3rd grade, they remembered chapter 126, wheelchair basketball stuck out. So that's something that's going to stick with them for a while. And then at the end, Coach Paul he's in a wheelchair the whole time playing basketball, and we get together and there's learning. What did you learn? A lot of kids talked about the word empathy. It was great to hear. Coach Paul pointed out, oh yeah, great to hear. And then Coach Paul stands up, so the kids are like, oh, he drops down and does 50 push-ups, muscles, and the kids are like, ooh, and he goes into the whole thing. Oh, what? You didn't think I could do push-ups? The kids are learning, don't judge a book by its cover. Don't let the disability define the person. Person first. We terminology. Don't say the kid with special needs or the kid with the disability. Or maybe the other way around. You don't want to say the disabled kid. That's rude,
Sure.
Inappropriate. You learn to put the person first. So it's my classmate with a disability or my classmate with individual needs. And that language was coming along through this trip.
I think there are people out there who would laugh at that and say that that's not important, PC culture, whatever. If it's important to the people for whom we're talking about, then it's important,
Yeah.
right? I can't thank you enough for coming on here and talking about this, and it's really a great program. I'm really excited that we're doing it again this year and that the foundation's getting involved, and I certainly hope that involvement continues. So thank you so much for coming on here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you Foundation Grant for allowing us to continue with Chapter 126. I really appreciate it.
Well, folks, that's all we've time for today. Thank you so much for joining. If you'd like to learn more about this grant or to make a gift to the Foundation for West Hartford Public Schools, please visit fwhps.org.